Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chapter Tactics, where we talk about tactics and strategies for both new and veteran players alike. Today, we have the ones, the onlys, because they're both on the same camera today. We've got Brickie and Demeki.
Hi, Brickie.
Hi, Demeki. This is the opposite of last time.
They don't know what we talked about last time. What are you talking?
Yeah.
I'll edit it in. It's fine. It's fine.
It was some chapters and some tactics.
Tactics.
Yeah.
You don't. A magician never reveals his tactics.
These guys, I'm pretty sure.
Those chapters, you just don't talk about it.
I spent a CP to hide our intro.
Yeah.
How many Mai Tais are you guys in right now?
Just one.
I literally just cracked this one open. I'm just stupid, Matt. We've been over this.
Okay, that's true. That is true. And then on top of that, we've also got the one, the only, Paul Murphy.
Oh, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dude, Paul, if you guys don't know who Paul Murphy is, and you guys are listening to the FLGN right now, you guys should know who he is. He is one of the co-hosts for the Thursday show with Adam Camilleri as well. How's that going with you guys? Dude, I love.
Oh, it's great. We got Dustin Henshaw. We got Richard behind the scenes. We run. So that's the show we do here on the Frontline Gaming Network, where we talk about the upcoming tournaments over the weekend. We talk about the list you're going to see there, the factions you're going to see there, and sometimes we work in a little bit about how to beat them, how to crack the meta. It's just a fun time. It's basically we do a live show. You can come join us live. Heckle us, talk about what list you're bringing, what you how right or wrong you think we are. It is a great time that we have each and every week.
Okay. How about so in this episode we're going to be talking about like the US Opens, we're going to be talking about all that stuff. We're going to be going into a deep dive into the US Open because Paul, you also do some casting for the US Opens, right?
Yeah, I hope we get to talk about that. I hope we get there or whatever. I do podcasting. I talk about Warhammer a lot, and I love doing it. Like, this is one of those things I just absolutely love Warhammer, love the opportunity to talk about it, love to play, love to paint, kind of, all around hobbyist, and then also get occasionally to talk about it on shows like this and live streaming.
Yeah. So how's that been going for you? Because you did casting for Seattle, you did casting for Dallas. Have you been casting all of the US Opens?
Yeah, every single U.S. Open series, myself and Nick Nanavati and folks behind the scenes really can't say enough about the team that runs the events. It really is an awesome experience, and then everyone that showed up. But talking about it specifically, the casting side of it, I think we've been able to show some tournament games of Warhammer in a way that's really cool, and it's really cool that Games Workshop is getting back into the tournament scene as things start to ramp up after the the time period that we have been in, and just basically showcasing the games.
Yeah. Definitely. And what's really interesting is that you'll if you guys are watching the video portion of this, you guys will see that Brickie and Demeki are inside of the Dice Check office right now because they're actually practicing for the US Open that's coming up. The San Diego US Open? Is that correct?
Yeah, boy.
SDO.
Yeah, boy.
Yep.
Yeah.
San Diego. That's in like 3 weeks. So it's June 10th through the 12th.
Yep.
Yep. We got two where I'm running Sisters. Demeki's doing his
Dangles.
I'm trying to build a list that's super anti-Armor of Contempt.
Yeah.
And he's building a list that goes really hard into Armor of Contempt.
So
It's the Armor of Contempt meta out there, really. So I'm like teetering on whether I think it's the Armor of Contempt or is it the Rhino meta. Are we on the verge of the Rhino meta? But I want to know what y'all are. I mean, look, I got you here. I got two Armor of Contempt enthusiasts apparently, and then Sisters is probably one of the Adeptus Sororitas. I think is one of the most skill-intensive armies in the game right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
100%. Don't stroke this guy's ego, man.
I didn't say he could play it well. I just wanted. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, dagger. Oh, first he strokes your ego, then he comes in with a dagger.
I'm kidding, of course. They have like all the answers, but it's like, how do you build it into a list? So I hope we get to talk about what's in your list.
He's got a lot of loaded dice in his list, I can tell you.
Yeah, I do. Hey, just roll sixes. That's how you win Warhammer.
Yeah.
I always place the six. Man, no, I would do that. Like Quinn's, Craft World's, Gene Stealer, Colts, and Sisters, like the four really kind of tougher armies to play. But no one believes me because they're like, Brickie's biased, and now I feel validated. Oh no, it really is. And miracle management. You could. I say this is one of the things we cover on the Thursday show, and occasionally this other show I do called Forge the Narrative. Is we talk about how you can completely skew your Adeptus Sororitas list in the wrong direction. you can kind of misjudge what you're going to see in the back half of the games. And I will say that talking about tournaments and seeing these tournaments, seeing the factions that we go down on the various shows, and then seeing it play out, it's really cool how it all kind of comes together. This is a really exciting, living, breathing meta that we're a part of, and you start to get to know the list, the players, and everything else. So you talk about what it's like casting. I'm a fan of this just like anybody else. So it's kind of cool to see this all kind of converge. Everything that we do, the hours of hobby, the talking about it, the list craft, the lore research, the reading, all this stuff, the travel, and then it all just comes to a head, and see what wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the travel, man. Like, I think that for the San Diego U.S. Open, we're all going to that one because like it's like the closest one to us that as of right now. It's going to be the first U.S. Open that we're going to, which I guess leads us into the first question here, Paul. Since you know about this more than we do, what are the main differences between the U.S. Open and like other tournaments?
So a lot of big tournaments, and this is just the way it is. Sometimes it's just the tournament. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the games that you have over the course of that weekend at these Games Workshop U.S. Opens events. There are, well, I don't say first and foremost, but one of the cool draws is there's a fully stocked Games Workshop and Forge World store. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
things you can get there that you can't get anywhere else, and including like limited edition things, things you can only get at events, and plus just kind of hard to find things that you may not be able to get locally or what have you. But then
World
there's
class
things like
arms.
painting classes.
Uh-huh.
There's world class painters are there, teaching some of the hobby stuff. There's things to do outside of just the tournament itself. And then like we've been doing it to where we have like kind of social hours, get-togethers, and trivia contest, and just basically hangouts that you don't always get at just tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more than that.
Now,
It's almost more like a convention than a tournament in
Yeah.
a weird way.
It's I really think it's getting there, and I like that. I kind of like the when you can kind of go and really like kind of steep in everything that is what we love about this hobby over the course of a weekend. And plus, you get people from coming all over the country, but you get that at other tournaments. What's different is, it has these other things attached to it that is just beyond just playing a certain amount of games, which, by the way, just playing games is cool. Like,
mhm.
I can certainly sympathize and empathize with people that you come and get 5+ games in one weekend, and sometimes that's more games than people get in a month or a quarter or 6 months or whatever. And that's its own draw. And in tournaments, again, I love it. It's in my blood. But I like the total package of these things.
Bro, like playing 5 games over the course of a weekend, that's more standing than I do in like the course of like a month. Like
It
it's
hurts.
that shit that hurts, man.
So
It's
it's part nerd stuff, part fitness.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's
yeah. You look at Steven Box and I'm just like, man, that guy, what a good looking gentleman. I bet that
dedicated.
Calves.
Yeah, I
yeah.
was about to say, I bet all of our calves are starting to look amazing.
Oh yeah.
Like from like waistline down, we're starting to look really nice.
We should start a calendar.
Yeah.
You've always been.
Yeah, do a leg calendar. Just
That's right.
only legs, only legs, only legs. That's it.
legs.
That's it.
legs. Only
Um,
legs with favorite model by our feet.
yeah. So Paul,
That's a different calendar.
Paul, you've been to a lot of U.S. Opens. Tell me, and I want you to be as honest as you can. All right. Which area during the U.S. Opens was the most competitive? Like, which one was like the most cutthroat?
That's okay. So cutthroat is we talk about the style of tournaments of
Yeah.
these types of tournaments versus other tournaments. So after game 4, you actually kind of break into brackets, and so you have players that are playing against you're playing at that point versus people with similar records, similar win pass, similar records than that you have.
Mhm.
So I don't want to say it's like always like equivalent skill level or anything like that, but you're definitely playing against people that have a similar record
Yeah,
to
like
what
a
you
higher
have
caliber. Yeah, yeah,
that weekend.
yeah.
And so it becomes a different type of match past that point. But if I had to say like pound for pound, because these tournaments they attract some of the strongest players, the best players in the world, and they will filter up into into the top bracket, or sometimes like any event you'll have them kind of shake down into the other brackets. But I think like bracket for bracket, the strongest one might have been New Orleans.
Oh, really?
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 of
Oh,
the
okay.
ones that we've had. Now look, there's been like world class play at every single one of these.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and also displays of, you come to these things to see people's armies. Like I said this on the live stream for the last broadcast. I
Mm-hmm.
never leave one of these things without being inspired about how to come home and do my own hobby.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I see something that makes me have a good takeaway of like, wow, I cannot believe that someone brought that. That is amazing. I have to try to put my version of that on the tabletop, once I get back home. But I do think that like just just as far as like strength of bracket per bracket per bracket per bracket, New Orleans might have been the strongest to answer the question directly.
Yeah, yeah. And you're a space or what? You play Blood Angels a lot, right? Is that
I love Blood Angels. I'm never too far away from my Blood Angels,
yeah?
so I'm right here. Uh,
How's Armor of Contempt treating you with your Blood Angels right now?
It is glorious.
Yeah.
It is one of, well, I mean, come on. Like sometimes you just need that extra little bit. I like, if I'm playing an assault army, I like to push as many points as I possibly can forward to assault. And sometimes you need that extra round to get there. And the little bit of endurance that the Armor of Contempt provides you, kind of, I see it as almost like buying you half a turn. And sometimes that's all you need with an aggressive army. And
Yeah.
so it's nice.
About to say, the simple fact that Sanguinary Guard have a 2-up, and with Armor of Contempt like that, just the fact that they have a 2 instead of a 3
Mwah.
is everything.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Fast
And I
moving.
also
Sometimes you get to Forlorn Fury. Sometimes you get to heroic into things. It's strategic application of the angelic
Sacrifice.
angelic sacrifice.
I love
Yeah,
that stratagem. So cool.
yeah. All this is stuff it's like you're playing a momentum game, and so that's Armor of Contempt really helps with that. Now, don't get me wrong, it also helps the aggressive side of things. So things like Thousand Suns, Death Guard, and Grey Knights have like a complete new lease on life, and it's pushed them into like what I consider at least a half step up in whatever tier they were in before. But then you can't subtract the skill of the pilot. So well, I'm sure we might get to that in part of the conversation that we have. But
Hey,
I mean,
I'm loving
listen. All right. Speaking of skill of pilots, let's talk about Brickie and Demeki. What do you guys when it comes to the San Diego U.S. Open? How have you guys been like making your lists comparatively since you guys are preparing for Armor of Contempt and everything like that? Like what lists are you guys running?
You first, Becky, because
Yeah.
yours is probably going to take less time.
Yeah, I leaned very heavily into Armor of Contempt with Dark Angels, so I have about
What happened to
20
the Tau? Where's the Tau at? What happened to Tau?
So Tao lost this thing called -1 AP while in monk. So like, yeah.
So I mean,
remember that thing I said about buying yourself another half turn? They lost a half turn, so half turn on this side, half turn on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that and I still had a lot more hobbying to do with Tao than I do with Dark Angels. So Terminators are super easy to paint, especially the bone color. But it has about 20 total Terminators. That includes all my character Terminators. So the idea is that I am an unstoppable brick that just sits and collects points.
You're just gonna score points.
I'm just gonna score points. I'm gonna sit on primaries, and you gotta force me off. I've got the Apothecary on bike, Ravenwing Apothecary on bike with Selfless Healer. I've got my Deathwing Ancient with the Relic of Caliban for the -1 damage. I've got a Ravenwing Death Shroud for -1 to hit, bubble. I've got my captain. He's rocking 2 Warlord traits. I forgot off the top of my head right now.
I'm sure they're the best ones.
Yeah. They are the best ones. I've also got 3 Redemptors with a
Spicy. Okay.
and 4 Servitors to sit there and perform actions like the good boys. They are.
People forget about servitors, but that's like 28 points or whatever of game winning potential.
Yeah. 28 points of do R&D, do banners.
Yeah.
Just do something. Do something.
Bomb.
Yeah.
When
But,
during the team tournament, one of our team members was gonna bring Grey Knights, right? And so for that, we were like trying to figure out what we could push into the list because like, you know, with Grey Knights, you have like Interceptors really and like your Nemesis Dread Knight, and that's pretty much it, right? And so we're like, what else can we put in here? So we just put in like 3 squads of servitors, and like he actually loved them because they just stood on points and did like absolutely jack all throughout the entire game, but they held objectives.
People don't have enough.
Yeah.
They don't have things to dedicate to them. It's like either I could put a few heavy bolters or or something into those things, but then I don't do enough wounds to this unit that's actually doing the predominant
Yeah.
amount of damage to me or scoring those points or whatever. It's they never have time to dedicate to them. It's a secret weapon in a lot of Marines lists that can take them.
Yeah.
And not to mention that with Ignore LOS heavily nerfed, you can't just plink them away anymore. You got to really dedicate.
Yep.
And since people aren't even taking Ignore LOS as much anymore, like those things are going uncontested for at least like 3-4 turns.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I believe that they also get Armor of Contempt as well. So like,
Yes.
which is so funny. Brickie, what about you? What's your list looking like?
So I'm playing my favorite sister order, the Ebon Chalice. I particularly built my entire army to make it so that if you are running any Psyker heavy army, you will probably hate me.
That's strong right now. I mean, you're good. You know, you're going to have to get through a couple of those along the way.
So
Tyranids included. I count Tyranids in that.
Oh yeah.
I would
Oh, yeah.
agree. Tyranids is a big part
Yeah,
of
oh,
it. So Ebon Chalice lets you pick 2 Sacred Rites, so you'll always pick the Passion because it's the Passion. But then you can immediately tech directly into any of the other ones, or you can jump into the 5-up Deny, which is insanely powerful. But Ebon Chalice in particular lets you discard a Miracle Dice to make the other one a 6. And because of that, I'm running they also have a 1 CP stratagem for 4-up, unmodified 4-ups to wound with Flamers, do mortals to a cap of 3. So the idea of the list is you've got Dominions in an Immolator. The Immolator pregame moves, goes up 3 mortal wounds. The Dominions already jumped out. Blessed Bolts, 6 mortal wounds. Triumph of St. Catherine's in it. At the beginning of the shooting phase, 6-inch aura. Every single enemy unit within 6 inches on a 5-up takes D3 mortals, +1 to +1 to the roll if you're a Psyker, +1 to the roll if you're a Chaos. Add in some D3 mortals from a hymn. Throw in the Enunciation of the Creed, which is if you just allocate an attack with that relic, it does a flat 3 mortals against Psykers. And then I took a special blessing that gives it a 6-inch aura, blessing aura of Ignore Light Cover, very handy for the Armor of Contempt meta, and then a whole bunch of Retributors in Rhinos and the like. So it's just dunking mortal wounds to a ludicrous volume and a little bit of character sniping. Combine that with some great, I got the Flamer Seraphim. So every turn, I can spend a CP to put 3 mortal wounds on basically whatever I choose. And that against Terminators is incredible.
How do you stack that? How do you decide when to employ that? Do you lead out with that? Do you wait till that's the last thing that you do? Like, what's your strategy there?
It's difficult because, I generally lead with it if I can. Most Terminators are 3 wounds. You can easily get 3 with an Immolator, 2d6 Flamer shots, 4-ups. That's not too hard. But generally because the Immolator can move forward, turn 1 I can get it there. And then I have a Paragon suit that has a Flamer. I can get that from there. I also have the Seraphim that come down in a turn. They can do it then. It's less about when. It's just about doing it every time. They also have a CP regenning Warlord trait, which is very handy. And to me, like the moving and shooting heavy with the Meltas are going to be on 4s. It's a little bit rough, but the Triumph can automatically make any Miracle Dice into a 6. Combine that with Ebon Chalice turning into a 6, and I have Simulacrums in almost every squad of mine. So that, I don't need to land a bunch. I need to land 2. And then I put 12 damage just on the board. Like
Is the armor Contempt something that you then started to reconsider Paragon Warsuits? So they've always been in the list, because I think that they are something that have just kind of been waiting on the fringes of being able to just needed a little bit of nudge, and this might have been it.
I think they're a lot better than Bloody Rose, personally. The Paragons are more of a what models do I have problem.
All right.
As opposed to I'm not dead set on Paragons personally, but I think practice, because that mace is 3 damage.
Yeah.
And Terminators are 3 damage, and being able to run up to most things and bonk it really hard with exploding 6s at all times. It's pretty good. And people forget about Zealot. Like Holy Rage is 1 CP if you're near a priest for full rerolls to hit on the charge. Combine that with exploding sixes, like that's
nutty.
that's devastating.
Yeah,
And
that's
also,
pretty good.
I have angelic sacrifice. It's called suffering and sacrifice. I have that.
Yeah.
And also, I can just to revive my character that was sacrificed. Like it's got options.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It sounds like that you are just dealing a bunch of mortal wounds, which is going to help you out against both Psychers and just AOC in general. And in fact, like that's even going to help you against Tyranids, because Tyranids, like, they can only get like a 5-up feel no pain on one unit. And like, you know, you're not dealing mortal wounds during the psychic phase either, so you're not being bothered by Shadow in the Warp either. So you're just like able to just chunk things down that are pretty strong to, you know,
Yeah,
that are
it's
hard
funny.
to deal with. Yeah.
We finished round 1 before we went into the call,
Mhm.
and I killed 3 sisters, and I wounded your transport
I wouldn't name later.
to half bracket.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which saved your dreadnought because I couldn't get to it.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
we
you
want
introduced the movement, couldn't get up.
So let's move on from here. We've been on this for a while, but I just wanted to, as a little segue here, you know, we were talking about Armor of Contempt, and one of the things about Armor of Contempt that's super, super important is like touching terrain, getting that light cover to really push your value out of Armor of Contempt. And I know that the US Open uses preset terrain that GW did, or like, you know, that GW has set up. How's that terrain been working out for the season? And do you think that there should be any changes to the terrain at all, Paul?
Well, there hasn't been any changes really to this seasons of terrain. So we're in the new season. So if you're curious as to how to get into the series, or you want to play for the basically the finals, play towards the finals, which we can talk a little bit about that. Like the top seeds and or top winners actually get to come to the finals as part of the prize. You know, so that's one of the things you can come and compete for if you wanted to. But we're in the start of the new season. We just had Seattle. Next thing we're going to San Diego, which we talked about is the 10th through the 12th. So if you're in the area, you know, come check us out. There's not just Warhammer 40,000 either. There's a bunch of kill teams. There's paint classes and Sigmar and other stuff. So check out. Maybe you put the link in the show notes as to where people can check it out. But
For sure.
on the question of terrain, is that it there's been a lot of like thought about how the placement of the terrain and the traits of the terrain. You know, in ninth edition, you know, each terrain has rules to it. You know, that you can that and these have been predetermined, you know, by the organizers, and they've been playing out to where different armies, more armies than you might think, are able to compete on the tabletop. And so, by and large, players that have used this terrain that have, you know, told me, you know, because again, the players love to talk about their experiences. Let's just say that, but they've been largely positive about the terrain once they've played on it. You know, there's you can look at it kind of from the top down. It looks a certain way, but when you're actually playing on it, it gives you a pretty well-rounded experience on the table.
Yeah, it's also really nice. It's a good change of pace because for a lot of other tournaments, they do like player place terrain, player optimized terrain, however you want to call it, which is both like they're both really great ways to play the game. Like they both have their own specific like
Absolutely
caveats,
agree.
right? Like they're
I'm
so
a
good.
big also like the organizers, you know, they're putting all the risk. They get to choose how they want to like it's such a part of how the event is experienced, and organizers should, I mean, far and wide, big and small, should be empowered to do whatever they want to
Oh,
do
yeah.
with any aspect of their event, including the terrain placement or
Yeah.
configuration.
Yeah. And for the terrain that's set up at the US Opens, I know that there's like there's 4 windowless like ruins, correct? And so that probably helps out a lot for armies that are like very assault heavy. Makes it so that they have to like get in and they have like an extra. I see Demeki and Brickie shaking their heads. Paul, I see you also being a Blood Angels player. I also love the assault phase, so like I'm happy about it too. I like it as well.
Well,
we were building the terrain like GW, and we didn't know they were windowless.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, that's why.
I see. We'll change this next time.
Yeah, it's something that you have to plan for because like there's some armies out there that do worse on like that type of terrain. Like Tau, for example,
Mhm.
it was a lot harder to play Tau on a US Open terrain layout than it was in something where it was player optimized, because you can create your own firing lanes. Whereas when you're playing on the US Open, you don't have those dedicated firing lanes that you can like kind of create for yourself. So how has the feedback been comparatively, like, you know, with that in mind, like with people that want to be more shooty versus people who are assault? Like, is assault more dominant during the US Open, things like that?
So just a comment on like organizers publishing what the thing is, so, like what to
Mm.
expect at their events, and so players kind of they know what to expect going into it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that some people, if you're trying to get that 4-1 or 5-0 or 8-0 or whatever the event is, you really need to explore what is published and play into whatever the environment
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, always look at your
And
terrain
so
packet for your
yeah,
tournament.
so
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise people when they get there, and so people have already factored that into, I think, to their list design once they get there.
Mhm.
But what I will say, and this is mostly anecdotal, because you still got shooty armies winning, you still got tough armies and tough players, tough pilots winning games. They figure out a way to crack whatever
Yeah.
the nut is.
Yeah.
But I will say that that players feel like they've got a fighting chance every single game they rock up to.
Mhm.
That's the experience. That's the conversation that people share about this. They felt like they were, it's always stories like turn 3, turn 4, it went south, but I felt like I was in it, kind of thing. That's the experience that I'm getting from a lot of players.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
I haven't played at a US Open before, but I have played on US Open like maps with things like TTS, like Tabletop Simulator and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because of like Tactical Tortoise, who has a bunch of things for like US Open maps and things like that. And after playing on those maps, it is a very different game than what I'm used to with player optimized, because like there's just like there's so much, I guess, like windowless ruins that it completely caught me off guard. Where I was like, "Wow,
And you can
there's
still
a
get
lot."
got. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah.
you misdeploy, you still you got to
Hmm.
be a real dedicated to that. Like everything matters,
Yeah.
to where your deployment is, and you can
Yeah.
still get picked off. And but what I do like it is that if you really take some time to really focus on like the lanes of fire and having conversations with your opponent, you can have a much more interactive first couple of turns, which I think leads to better games
Hmm.
by and large. Like on average, not all the time, of course. You can still have lopsided situations, but I think that this is contributing towards a more interactive first couple of turns.
For sure. Now, Brickie and Demeki, you guys are playing on the US Open terrain right now. You guys are practicing on it. How are you guys
Yeah.
feeling about it? Because I know that in our office, we usually do like player optimize, or we just place down whatever looks the most cinematic or whatever. So, how are you guys enjoying the US Open terrain layout?
Oh,
Uh,
we're only around one, so
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
we
okay.
round two.
The jury's out.
Yeah, the
we
jury's
do.
out. What do you guys feel about it in round one?
Well, so we did add a piece in the middle, for because we're doing table 1.
Yeah,
We're gonna do table 2, but I messed up.
the sight line of table one, the center sight line's a little larger than we'd
Yeah,
like.
it's full open.
Is that the one where it's the 4 squares and you've got that kind of open, and depending on which layout you get? Like I will
Right.
say, if you're playing like a Dawn of War layout versus Hammer and Anvil, it's a different experience altogether.
Yeah,
we got the two corners and the circle one.
yeah.
So it's a little it's a little finicky. Also we deployed like most Harlequin players, everything behind a single ruin basically.
Makes sense. That
But
makes sense.
yeah, you get it. I think the only thing that I
Well-
generally see as a slight issue is the sheer amount of light cover, because it's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
But besides that, it doesn't feel too different.
I mean, it's definitely a benefit for AOC. The one thing, so the reason why we deployed the way that we did too is because we didn't know about the windowless.
yes.
So
Things would be a little different if
we definitely would have deployed differently if we'd known about the windowless for the larger pieces. Other than
What
that,
you're referring to is that the first levels are typically all like even if there's a window there that's been blocked out or something, and
Right,
so
yeah.
it creates the very specific lanes of fire with the obscuring terrain rule in effect.
right.
Yeah, I held my retributors back because I thought there were windows in there, and I didn't want to put them on the table.
Right.
And I think
They would have been a target.
Yeah, they would have been a target. That Dreadnought would be dead to Meki. That Dreadnought would be so dead.
So moving on from here, I guess like let's answer the big elephant in the room, because this is something that a lot of people are like talking about. They're kind of worried about the armies that are, you know, very strong, or, you know, strong, right? How does the US Open like deal with that? Because I know that this is like more of a GW sanctioned event, things like that. So when GW sees those things, you know, it's a lot more in their face, I guess, right? So like, how does that work out for everybody with the meta, like, you know, being as, I guess, a little bit lopsided as of right now? Trying to be.
Are you talking about like when like Tyranids are kind of
I'm talking
basically
about, like,
very dominant right now? Harlequins
Tyranids,
were dominant for a while.
Yeah.
I don't. So this is not like this. I just give you my opinion. One man's opinion on this is that when you've got great players that take the time to like seriously, they know how to evaluate a codex and find the value in codexes like very quickly. And that end up making lists that become like the archetypal, defining net lists. And I'm using that like very loosely. Like net list means nothing. Like if you can find somebody that has a list that you want to play and you're going to enjoy playing it and you've saved some time, then use it and have fun. Like you still got to put in all the hours, the modeling and all the effort and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we see some of these lists and these codexes do really well, but they're also played by great players, so it's once you kind of add up everything, like of course they're going to do well at tournaments.
Exactly.
But what I will say is that the feedback, we have a very vocal community, and the feedback, not just from Games Workshop events, but from all events, it makes its way to the folks that would just really want to make the game better for everybody. So if I were not taking what I thought was the meta list, then you absolutely have to put yourself in a camp of how do I beat the meta list. So you either have to be the meta or to beat the meta. Well, I guess there's a third category of realistically setting your expectations of how many games you're going to win that weekend.
Yeah. Paul, I love you. I love you, Paul. That's the best answer. I love you.
The other side of it is that there's also the brackets. And so, you're going to eventually, like, say you take a huge L in game 1, by round 5, you're going to be playing against people that have similar records and probably, like similar expectations of the game, so there's a path to a victory. It may be slightly redrawn, but there's still, at events like this, there is still a path to victory.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that just to reiterate what you're saying, we're not saying that like every army has an answer to like the current state of the meta and that you just have to find it, because the truth is some armies just don't have any tools that they can reliably use in
you got to roll those 6s sometimes.
Yeah, you just gotta
Imperial Guard. Hi, how's it going?
Yeah.
Or to your point, miracle those 6s in, every now. Yeah.
Hey.
So Paul,
cheating.
I actually have a question for you. So when it comes to preparing for a US Open event versus like FLG event, what are some of the things that people should be ready to bring for this event that they normally would not bring for an FLG event?
That's an interesting question, because I honestly don't know that it's different. I think that the list that people are still concerned about are going to be the list that people are concerned about. You're still going to see, occasionally, you got to worry about, do you tech for a flyer or do you not care? Do you bring a flyer, or an aircraft, not a flyer, not something to fly, but you know what I mean? Do you go psyker heavy? So what I think, can I make a dodge the question a little bit and just talk about like what I think the general meta is?
One thing I was maybe I just generalized it too much, not list wise, but like helpful tools wise. So like I noticed that during the Seattle Open, like I didn't see so much of the 3D6 wargaming like objective marker. I saw like the coins. So like is that something that GW wants? Like do they want you to use coins for the actual marker when it comes to an objective? Or can you still bring
anything that makes your game easier? Bring the things that make your game easier. Like you are like playing in a timed environment. Yeah. You're playing it like one of the players that did so well. He had one of those like patches you'd keep or pouches you keep nails in on your belt for his dice. Like those kind of things that help speed. Like by all means use that kind of stuff. I was going to talk about the game that like is playing. It's like there's a couple of secondaries that I think have become traps for people.
Mhm.
I feel
I
like.
feel-
Can I talk about that?
Yeah. Go for sure. What are they?
So
What are the trap ones?
I think teching for a Pour the Witch is a bit of a mistake
I
because
agree. Yeah.
having that
disagree.
pocket psyker. Now, unless you don't have psychers, and then it's always available to you. But teching, like specifically teching for that. Oh my goodness, I have to have this in my back pocket. When you can, like, even if you're a space marine, you can take like null zone. Null zone could win you a game. Like a whole game. And then what I find for players is like assassination seems to be a trap.
Yes.
So
I love it.
so those are things that if I'm going to events now, like if I had to say what a big shift from tournaments 5 months ago to tournaments right now is that those two secondaries, I'm seeing players more and more often not scoring those points the way that they expect to score those points. And so
Yep.
I think that goes all the way back to your list design.
Oh yeah, definitely. When for as an example, being a Harlequin player, I bring a lot of characters. I bring like 6 characters. I don't care. And like if somebody takes assassinate, I love it. I love it when somebody takes assassinate against me because I'm just like, you're not gonna get any points from me. I'm sorry, man. Like that's not going to happen. And like it's a trap.
Assassinate, and I think I may have made a mistake.
It's a trap.
Assassinate is definitely a trap.
Not that it can never work out, but you're putting with assassinate specifically, is you're putting a lot of power in your opponent's hands, and I think more players are figuring that out and figuring out how to negotiate that secondary. And so you're playing. We talk about you're playing against people with similar win records, potentially similar, like expectations or skill or whatever. However you want to slice it. They'll find ways to not. You'll be a tight game and you'll be down 6 points. So
Definitely, yeah.
Thinking about that from a different way, I think is what's different. Maybe not from this tournament or another style of tournament. What is like different with Warhammer 40,000 from 3 months ago?
Mm-hmm. I want to do a little bit of a hot take here on another secondary that I think is also a trap. And I know that people are going to get very upset about this, but I 100% think that this is a trap secondary. Psychic interrogation, man. Like, dude, that secondary, I still have yet to score past like 9 points on that secondary. Like,
really?
Yeah, because
against me,
yeah,
5 up, 4 up, nice stratagems. Like, no way.
It was nuts. We saw it a lot at the team tournament that we went to.
I heard a lot of people were taking it because they see the buff and they think, oh, this is better now. This is worth taking now, instead of just better, as opposed to now you should run it.
That's a good top 5, like top 5 secretly 0 point secondaries.
Yeah. Just because, like, it's the same thing as assassinate, right? Like, when you're playing against somebody that knows that you're taking psychic interrogation, you're just like, you're not going to get any points off me. I'm sorry, man. And then
they're on the other side of the map.
Yeah. Or you just become an absolute Chad and you just run your characters into them and then kill all your own characters so then they can't score psychic interrogation. Boom, next level.
That's a strong move.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Celestine, mover 12, Miracle Dice of Charge 12, immediately murder Psyker. Like, what are you gonna do? Kill me?
Yeah.
Back up.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of psychic interrogation. So, Paul, we talked a little bit about how you do a lot of casting, and you've been casting a lot of the U.S. Opens and stuff. It must be like extremely hard doing this type of casting because unlike video games, right? Like, with video games, like the information is really in your face. Like you can find out the information very quickly comparatively to Warhammer 40K. How do you get like all this information inside of your head? Like how many floppy disks do you have as like a backup to just pop into your head?
That's a great question. So we have an awesome team of typically there's someone at the table that's helping with the information.
Yeah, table boss, right?
Yeah, and makes some of the stuff that you don't necessarily see. They'll give us that information. Part of it is just lucky guesses. No,
I can see that. I can see that.
One of the games within the games that we do is like sometimes I read the player, like I can look at the player because they can't hear us, but I can still see them, and I can tell when they're feeling like they've got to make a gamble, or whatever. Then I look at the table and I figure out what would I, if I felt like I was playing behind, what would I do right now to feel like I was getting back into it? And so a little bit of situational awareness comes into it. But having having the app with with a lot of the rules in there, having a
Mhm.
great team of people that are behind a little behind the scenes you don't see on camera. And then occasionally we'll have the judge will be there, and that we'll come get a download from the judge that just either had to make a rules call or did a read of the table or whatever. So we're actually getting information from off camera uh, a, a fair amount of time, and then some of it is just fun and guessing, and occasionally
Mhm.
being right, and that makes it exciting.
Yeah, because you do a lot of the co-casting with Nick Nanavati, right?
Yeah, and he's
So,
brilliant. A
oh
great
yeah.
strategist, like knows the game inside and out. He
Mhm.
he also can look at the table and see, like, sometimes he doesn't even need the information from he just knows exactly how it all played out because he's been in that situation 1,000 times.
Would you consider yourself more of there's a color caster, and then what's the other category for a caster?
It's the play by play and the color.
Yeah, yeah. Would you consider yourself more of a play-by-play or a color caster?
I'm whichever one has been retired longer.
Oh.
Huh.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I still
That's
play,
a good
right?
answer. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of sports, but
Yeah.
uh, but I mean, I still play. Don't get me wrong, I love playing the game, and I love competing.
Mhm.
But at some of these larger events, I'm in the chair, and so I don't get to travel as much to these events, and thankfully Nick still does, and so just a great resource to have in the chair with me, and can bring just such amazing analysis to the game. And make it,
Mhm.
I think it makes a game that you're looking at that sometimes not a lot of activity happens, over a period of time. We get to try to bring, all that, maybe what the players are thinking from both sides of it to the cast.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So, one thing that I really want to know here, and I want to know your thought process about this and how you've seen other people tackle this situation. With the new or with the new way that you're playing missions, at least until the new book comes out, right? It's kind of hard keeping track of your own points nowadays. Like, you have your progressive objectives, you have your primary objective, you have your secondaries and everything like that. It's a lot of numbers to look at when you're looking at a score sheet. How have people been like tackling that problem? Because like I would look at my score sheet and I'd be like, I can't read this. I don't know what it's like looking at algebra sometimes. I'm like, what is this? Am I
I wrote
winning?
this down 2 hours ago. I don't know what happened. Like, come
Yeah,
on,
like
man.
am I in the lead or am I not? I don't know what's going on. So like how have people been tackling that problem? Because I know that a lot of people still write down their scores and everything like that.
Yeah, so that's actually the case. I think there's nothing. If so, what I would say, like, I know this is like we're not talking about, we're talking about a specific thing, but in general,
Hmm.
is sometimes you and your opponent should actually be writing down the score, because there sometimes is a
Oh yeah.
difference. 2 hours into it, you're both fatigued. Let's say you're playing 2 hours into it in game seven. You've
Yeah.
had 7 games. You've had, what is it? I can't do the math right now. It's like 107 hours of Warhammer that you have played,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
you can't be expected, to be 100% accurate all the time. Your opponent, it's a cooperative game. As far as like we come to the table, and I actually believe this to my core, is that we come to the table and we are sharing a cooperative experience, and I think that goes to the scorekeeping as well, especially in a tournament setting. So
Hmm.
you should be writing down what you do. A lot of players, what I've seen is they actually have like a laminated score sheet,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
they'll actually mark it down, and they just carry it from table to table, game to game, and they'll dry erase it and then redo it or whatever. But I think you should be in constant communication with your opponent about when you've scored points, what the score is, and then talk about it at the end of every round or beginning of every round, depending on when the points get scored.
But what about you guys, Brickie and Demeki? How are you guys looking to score your points? Because I know that when I was doing the team tournament on the second day, I was like, I'm not writing it down anymore. I'm going to use the ITC Battles app because I could see like the numbers like very clearly in my head, and like I don't have to add or anything like that. What are you guys planning on doing?
So what I do is I have a cart that has the transparency projector on it and a battery pack.
Uh-huh.
And sit down with my opponent. We write down our secondaries, like it's math class.
All right, class, we're going to be watching this video instead of learning today.
And that's how we
Yes.
do it. That's how I do it. At least it's a whole experience. I like to feel like I'm back in middle school or elementary school when I play Warhammer. So that's what I do.
All right, so for an actual answer, I do use the ITC Battle app, but I normally do like to print it out when I can. I just sometimes I forget. In a weird narcissistic way, I feel like I'm okay with the ITC Battle app because you generally get a vibe of your opponent when you first meet them, and you're like, oh, this guy seems fine, everything's good. Like we could probably both just keep track on the app and it'll be fine. And also, if I rig it on the app, like. That's not good. That's very, very bad.
Yeah.
And the person's gonna know. And it's gonna tell everyone don't cheat. It's very bad. No, everyone will find out.
Well, I mean, back to seriousness.
Yes.
A very good friend of mine made me this great laminated sheet. Matt, thank you.
Oh, hey, you're welcome.
Tournament, and I lost it after the first day. So the rest of the time, luckily, I had a pen and paper.
Well, one person was a friend.
Yeah.
Dude,
hey, I used it. I used it.
Listen, all right. I just want to point out that during that event, I printed out and laminated sheet of paper or like a score sheet for everybody, and I bought everybody dry erase markers. The first day, somebody lost the paper,
all gone,
and then people lost their dry erase markers, and I'm just like, guys, what do you guys?
Dude,
doing?
I've been there. I love team events.
Yeah.
Absolutely love team events. I'm typically, I'll captain some teams and I'll bring copies of everyone's army list. Sometimes, multiple copies. And then day 2, it never fails. At least one person needs more copies of their army list, even though I know they had spares, but they're all gone.
Yeah, they're all
the team
gone.
event, showing up and making it through all games is a gold star in of itself.
They treat their models like newborn children, but all that like mental energy for their minis is gone for everything else. So they lose their tape measure, they lose their dice, they lose their objective markers, they lose everything else but their minis.
Yeah, it's like it's like they go back to being a baby and they no longer have object permanence. Like they just once it's out of their line of sight, they're like, it's gone. I don't know what it is.
Never heard of it.
Yeah,
honestly, I don't even know how I lost mine. That was the crazier part.
Yeah,
because I was like, where's my laminated sheet? And I was like, well, I got these army lists that nobody wants, so I'll just use the back of these to take down points.
Let's talk about a tournament. Let's talk about day 1 of a tournament. Sometimes you're seeing people that you haven't seen in 3 months, 5 months, a year, 2 years or more sometimes. And so it's like almost like a family reunion. So you get there, the game start at 9 o'clock or whatever in the morning. Then you play till 6 o'clock. I mean, that's, maybe not 6, but some period of time. You played a lot of Warhammer and then you're hanging out along the way.
Yeah, and you're drinking beers, you're drinking alcohol, you have there's stuff, you're having a good time. You're gonna lose something, right?
It's an amazing day.
Yeah,
like I love coming to these things, and it's the vibe and the feeling. The whole thing is an amazing day, but it's still a long day. You don't feel it while you're in it. It's like, but when you go, I've been on there the Tuesday or whatever, going back to work. It's like, man, I wish I was rolling dice right now. But then you're like, ooh, that was a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get it too because we're tall. The amount of bending over like that wanes on you. Your lower back is ooh.
I remember after the last tournament that Matt and I just went to, I was like, bro, my legs are killing me.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm done.
Don't skimp out on the back squats. You got to keep it going, or else it's for Warhammer. Appearance means nothing.
I'm gonna bring my massage.
Like how to do these tournaments. You need like protein, not protein bars, but at least something with a little protein in it. You need to drink plenty of water. Like especially as we get a little advanced in years.
Listen, all right. Meanwhile, during that tournament, I was just like going ham because I am short. So the table sizes, I'm like, you guys' backs are hurting? Come on, man. Come on, son. What are you guys doing?
Quit. I don't want to hear nothing. No, I was going to mention real quick on a side up for a prior topic we mentioned about like things to bring. I remember fighting that game against Logan of Xenos Petting Zoo with his freebooted orcs.
Yeah.
Yes, and he just slaughtered me. But particularly what he did was he had these little coins that he would place next to every single unit that has already shot in his movement phase or his shooting phase, so he knows what has shot already and where to go. But him and almost every single one of his colleagues all brought a yoga mat. And they put it
nice
right next to the
professionals
thing to help their feet. And I did it once, and it is actually life changing. If you can afford Warhammer, get a yoga mat. It's everything.
If you go to Harbor Freight, like at one of those the discount stores or whatever, you can get the 4 sections of floor mats for dirt cheap.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's amazing on the feet. It's a world of difference.
You guys,
Obviously good, but
you guys do know that inside the office, you guys look at the exit, like the door. There's yoga mats there for your feet that you guys can bring. Yeah. There's 2 of them.
Yeah, I know. We're looking at them right now.
Yeah.
I don't see them where.
Yeah, we used them. We used them for a while.
Yeah,
like
we have
they are.
Yeah, we have some. You guys can use them.
Yeah, no,
it's like fire coming down from the mountaintop. It's like
everybody kept kicking them into like the dice box.
Yeah,
so long before time.
Yeah,
yeah. See, there you go. Easy. All right, so I can't even think of a segue right now because that was just so off topic.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was gonna say, what are some things that people can look out for so then they don't get DQ'd at a GW event? Because I know that one of the problems with a GW event is that a lot of people, and like, this isn't like a slight to GW or anything like that, but some people can be scared going to a GW sanctioned event because they can be, there can be some stricter type of rules in there to get like yellow carded, DQ'd, stuff like that. What are some things that people can do in order to like avoid that?
So, I think as far as like the perfect games of Warhammer 40,000 are kind of rare. I'll just say perfect games. They are. So
they don't exist. They're unicorns.
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be concerned about that. I would the things that I see people like really get quote unquote in trouble for, and this is so rare though. I mean, I tell you, of the hundreds of games and the hundreds of players that interact with, this is a rarity. But when a player has, let's say, it's easy to say that a player knows they shouldn't do XYZ thing, all right? But let's just say a player has been informed from a judge that they shouldn't do XYZ thing, and then they try it again in another round. That's like a bad thing. Everyone knows. We can all agree that that's bad. If you bought your dice from a sketchy Amazon seller or whatever, like if it looks weird, don't bring it. Like it's one of those things. But these things just basically never happen. It's what you find is that almost everyone that comes to these things, and I'm talking about like to the 99.999% wants to have a good time. They these games as much as you do. So like the intentional things like that are so rare, but I think that's what you should really be on the lookout for. Even if like in your home, let's remove any kind of intent from it, is that if your home store plays a certain way and you find out that that's not the way the lay of the land is for wherever you're going, you have to conform to the lay of the land. Hopefully it was published in advance, but let's just say you had to get a judge interaction and the judge asked you to do it a certain way. That's the way they're playing it. That's what you got to go with, and I think that's like the biggest thing to maybe if you're coming to one of these things and this is your first time, your house rules might not apply, and your house rules could be your store rules or whatever, but whoever, you have to kind of conform to what the way the land, and that's a frontline game. And that's any tournament you go to, they may have their own,
like
the way we do things around.
conduct.
Yeah,
and also conversions and this stuff. Like make sure it's sanctioned. Like send an email, be like, hey,
that's what I was gonna touch on right now. Was just about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brickie. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying, like for example, my Night Lords are 50% different types of printed stuff, conversions, because I really want to Night Lords them up, but because and I always send the email to the people over at FLG, say, hey, is this cool? The bases are all the same size, the whole thing, make sure. But I want to make sure I'm not bringing them to SDO. But if I was to bring them to SDO, make sure like, okay, hey, well in advance, make sure that this is acceptable, because you don't want to put the email out a week before and then realize that X or Y is not acceptable. And then you're like, oh, well, now I need to either go buy something out right now or completely redo what my plan was.
You got about 15 hours more hobby time or whatever.
Yeah.
I will just, this is one of those truisms that anybody who's running in a tournament wants you to have a good time, so they're running this because probably they care about the good time of others. They want to share a bit of their version of Warhammer 40,000 out with whoever they comes to attend or whatever, and that's part of it. Like most if that type of stuff, I look at it as I'm a gamer, first or whatever, so I look at it as communicating with your opponent. And so that pre-check of whether or not, it's good to bring it or not is probably also to avoid some communication issues maybe with an opponent across the table. They want to have a chance to review it before it maybe turns into a situation later on when it really matters. Like if you're playing for some, you know, top bracket prize or whatever, and then it becomes an issue. You don't want that to be the case. You want it to have solved well before you even set foot on the grounds and roll any die whatsoever.
Oh, lucky for us, we're not going to be playing for top bracket prize.
You could be an A bracket. It might be the sixth bracket, but it's still whatever. It's the glory.
He's not saying the top of the bracket. He's just saying that you're in a bracket. It could be the bottom bracket here, Brickie.
I got a place in the Olympics. It was last place.
I got place.
I just want to be that guy in the meme. That's third place with the giant bottle of champagne.
He's like drinking it.
Yeah. I just want to be that guy.
I like
that. Yeah, I want to be that guy too.
Yeah. Everyone wants to be that guy. That's what everyone should aspire to be like in their lives. It's just to be so happy,
just comfortable.
Themselves. Yeah,
exactly. Just in the moment.
All right. So I feel like that we've been talking about this for a little bit, so we're gonna start winding down here. But before we end off, what are the next events that are going to be taking place for the U.S. Open? Can you do you know them off the top of your head? Can you spitfire them out right now?
Yeah, if I knew the dates, I would absolutely tell you. But the next one coming up is the one is in San Diego. So if you're anywhere near it, it's worth coming to because it's not just the Warhammer 40,000 event. There are other events, as Kill Team, and the narrative stuff, the open, the Age of Sigmar stuff, the paint classes, the store, or whatever. Even if you're not playing, you can't dedicate the whole weekend. You should probably come by and check out the armies that are going to be on display. There will be people from all over this country that have shown up that want you to see their army, and so it's going to be some cool stuff. So definitely check it out. There's also Kansas City, Chicago. Finals are going to be in New Mexico. If I've gotten that right, I'm doing this from memory, so forgive me. I put a link in the show notes if you don't mind. Hopefully, and direct folks, because this is much like the the FLG events. I consider these destinations events. You want to come to these things and meet people, and you're going to see. That's the coolest thing. You're going to start to see the same people over and over again. You realize the people are. It's a community. It really is a community of people.
Paul, I got you covered. I got it up right now. You want me to just ramble it?
Yes, please.
All right. So we got the San Diego U.S. Open, which is June 9th through June 12th. We got U.S. Open Chicago, which is October 6th through October 9th. We got U.S. Open Kansas City, which is October 27th through October 30th. And then we have the Grand Narrative and U.S. Open Final in New Mexico, November 17th through November 20th.
I got the cities right.
Yeah. and that's the most important part, is to get the cities right.
Well, this is one of the neatest things. This is the first time I've been to Seattle. It's the first time I've been to San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
So
for real?
These are
dude, we'll show you around, man. We're gonna show you around. Gonna have isn't the SD Open happening in downtown San Diego too, next to the airport, right?
Yeah, I need tacos and burgers and.
No, we gotta capture this man and take him to the fish.
Oh yeah, we're gonna take you to some nice sushi. We'll hook you up, Paul. Don't worry about it. All right,
nice.
You're gonna have a good
time.
Do
we have the money for hidden fish?
I always forget.
Matt.
Yeah, sure.
District, and then
that sounds wonderful. But that's one of the kind of unsung things about these about this. Not only do you got the Warhammer to look forward to, you got the places to experience you may not have gone to otherwise. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Heck yeah, man. All right, so that is going to be it for this episode of Chapter Tactics. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Before we end off here, Paul, how about you plug yourself? To tell us everywhere that people can find you.
So I run a podcast called Forge the Narrative, and it's a weekly show. Been doing that for a few years and love it. Got a great cast of folks. We talk about kind of all range of Warhammer stuff. I post pictures on Twitter at Warmaster_TPM. And on Instagram, on Fights with Dice. I know it's different, but I couldn't resist Fights with Dice. It's got the double meaning.
That's a cool. I like it.
What about Murphy's Law?
I think that was taken.
Oh, okay.
Went with some of those cool and not taken. But yeah, I post a lot on Twitter and Instagram, and then got the Facebook page. But then the podcast and then the live streaming the events is the best place to find me. And look, I've really appreciated being on. Like y'all are amazing to talk to. You. I know y'all do great work. I love all the things that you do,
Aw.
and just honored to be here.
Paul, I love you. I love you, Paul. When we meet each other, I'm gonna touch you, not inappropriately, but I will touch you.
A long embrace.
Yeah, a very long embrace, very long. Brickie and Demeki, how about you guys? Tell us where we can find you guys.
Murphy's Rules as Written. Murphy's Raw.
.com.
Come on. I had like a brain blast just 2 minutes ago.
Hang on, let me see if I can get that right now.
Hi, I'm Brickie. Follow me at Brickie literally everywhere.
Hi, I'm Demeki, and you can follow me almost at Demeki everywhere, or the Demeki.
Ooh.
But you can mostly find me on Dice Check.
Sick,
I'm on
man.
Dice Check sometimes.
Yeah. As for myself, you can find me nowhere. You can find me. I'm kidding. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye, everybody.